Okay, so I wonder if some Nigerians, I wonder if sometimes when we listen to other, whether it's Jerry Rawlings that you like, Jerry Rawlings of Ghana, or we have the president of Rwanda, or to some extent maybe also some other countries in Africa, saying like, when you listen to them, maybe sometimes Nigerians, maybe will think, why doesn't Nigeria have like, a caring, strong, leader? Like, how come we haven't had a president like that? How come Nigeria hasn't had a Jerry Rawlings? How come Nigeria hasn't had like, the sort of hero that seems to be able to focus on all the right things and do and execute things and as opposed to, uh, as opposed to what we've had, which is just like, especially because it's such a big country, we're saddled with so much responsibility. But you know what? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that we're going to. I don't think that Nigeria is going to get necessarily. I don't think Nigeria is necessarily going to have a Jerry Rawlings kind of character or what's his name? The Paul, the Kagame of Rwanda or whoever else is out there right now that seems to be really efficient at managing things and really speaking on behalf of the country, like like a Pan-African hero or whatever. I don't know that Nigeria is going to have, and I don't know that that needs to be the case. I think that at the point we're in right now, I think it's enough and it's suitable for Nigeria to just expect to just be able to do that more with a group of people as opposed to with one person. I think that that's sufficient enough. But I think that what that requires then is sort of humility and sort of like willingness to listen to ideas, you know, wherever they may come from, and especially and just really base our strategy and embrace for just love for the people, love for the country, and just problem solving. I think that if we really rally around that, I think that it's really easy. I think it's not that hard. And I don't think that, we would even need a single character hero like that. I think that if we really just rally, I think that's doable enough. But that has to be really what's wanted. And that has to be really kind of the focus. Um, it can't be anything else. So the question to all that wailing about, why do we not have patriotic leaders? Why are they so greedy? Why are there such thieves? Why are they so or indifferent? So it's like it's either they're super corrupt or thieves or this, or they just don't care, or it's a combination of, well, that's fine. But and is 2023 going to be any different? Is the next cycle going to be any different? Well, it can be, and it doesn't even necessarily require a sort of like one character hero that's going to emerge. It doesn't necessarily require that. Instead, it requires maybe just the multiplicity of characters who are perfectly fine to do it, who listen to each other, who have a meeting this week and a meeting next week and that, and get reports and say, what do you think of this and this and this? And let's do this. And let's watch this for 1 month, two, let's see how it goes. And then let's do that, who are willing to do that. And of course, there's going to be somebody who's nominally the president, who's nominally the vice president, but that isn't necessarily going to be the end all and be all. If we sit at a meeting and they don't have any ideas, they better be the type of person that's like, you know what, I like that. I like what you just said. Let's do that. Or I like, it better be that sort of thing. So I think in that sort of format, I think that we'll be fine. But there has to be a paradigm shift in that direction, because that's not what we have now. What we have now is the yeah, I mean, what we have now isn't that, but I definitely think that if we shift towards sort of that kind of scenario, um, then, then it'll be easier. And which brings me to the next thing, where there's a lot of clamor for restructuring, for fixing the Constitution as it stands. Basically, the Constitution that we have that's operating right now was just pretty much, copied and pasted or whatever it seems to be without really enhancing it with what it is, where we're coming from, and where the people that are under this constitution, where they came from. So so I mean, it's so funny because, I hear that I just heard recently that like, the APC is going to like, they should have a think tank. They should be doing, it's like they should be a think tank. Like the government, they shouldn't, it shouldn't be like now that they've like complained they're about to fail. It's about like, there's too much of just reacting to things, which makes it evident that governance tends to be sort of not really the focus. It sort of becomes sort of a secondary thing. It becomes like, um, after things go wrong, because if you have sort of the multiplicity of of sort of teamwork and whatever, always thinking about, always planning, you're going to get ahead of the problem even before it happens, because you're going to be watching that and saying, looks like that's going to them. Maybe we should get around this and solve it that way. Looks like you're going to have a lot more of that. And in Nigeria, you don't have that. You have people sitting in Agbada who just react to things, and then they just wait until something crazy and react to it. And the idea that it's going to get out of control is not a joke, because the population keeps growing. So right now, what you have is 200 million people under all this inefficiency. It's just going to become more people under it. So if you're having protests and people agitation and people frustrated now, just imagine how much more it's going to be if it just stays the same. If you just keep pushing the thing forward the way it is, and the efficiency of it, and the getting yourself around the problem before the problem even emerges. If that doesn't improve, if everything is just reactionary and you wait and you're like, oh my God, if everything just stays that way. And it doesn't have to be that way either. And it's not just one time that I've heard a governor say, oh, well, you should just pick up arms and defend yourself. That's happened multiple times, where you've had somebody that's in charge just say like, oh, well, just use self-defense. We can't help you. That's terrible. So if everybody's just willing to get their houses in order and make that the focus and make that the priority, it can be done. It's not impossible or even that difficult. You just have a bunch of people dancing around. I mean, something really, really ridiculous that happens in Nigerian election process. That is like, it's like you have like any president. I was there with that second president, the most recent president election. You have them not show up. You have the candidates of the two, made part of the ones that, they have them just not show up, and they just send proxies to do the debate. And it's like the same way they run away from really saying what it is they think, from really, really declaring what they hope for, what their vision is, maybe because they don't have ideas. And then people vote for it anyway. But then the reality is that you see, then when the problem arises, you get the same thing. Like the void that you see in them not showing up to really talk, to really converse about what's going on. That void is the same void that happens when a problem arises. When the problem arises, it's the same thing. It's like, I mean, because it's like they're not hiding from really sharing and talking about what they propose and whatever, because they secretly have really good ideas, but they're not. It's because there's a void there. If there wasn't, they would just say, oh, this is what I hope for, but they hope to get elected anyway, despite not showing up. And somehow they do. And then what happens when the problem arises is they say things like, oh my God, I don't, they throw their arms up in there like it's the most impossible problem. It's like they fight to have something they can't hold. It's like they fight to claim, it's like fighting to like, to drive a car, but not being knowing, and then being like, oh, I don't have a driver's license. Oh, I don't know how to drive. It's like, well, then you should have just let somebody drive you. I don't mean to go, So anyway, the point is that I don't know that what it takes is going to be just like a singular character hero. That like I was saying that may be. I mean, it's also hard in a big country like Nigeria to have any one person. Like, if you think about it, like, the Rwanda is a smaller country than us, Ghana is a small country than us. I think that it's easier for them to agree on a person or agree on something more easily. And I think in Nigeria is as big as we are, I think it might be impossible. Which is fine. That's not a problem. I think that the consensus of ideas that are used, because I think that if somebody is useful and smart, people they will. There's no like something that's they will. It will be reasonable to everybody. So I don't think that there's such a thing as like, this is only useful or reasonable to me, or that is only useful or reasonable to you because we're on different sides. I feel like when things take on that paradigm, it just means the best idea isn't on the table yet. So if somebody feels as if like, oh, well, what's good for you is only good for you, but it's bad for me. Well, what's bad for you? But what's good for this person is only good. If things take that too much of that sort of paradigm, it just means that what is on the table isn't good enough yet. Because if it is, it'll be obvious to everybody. Because you know what? Everyone wants the same thing. So everybody wants to move forward, wants the same thing. So if something that is not good enough is on the table yet, then it seems as if like, oh, you want that because that helps you, or that person wants that because that helps them. When the best thing comes to the table, it'll be relatively obvious to everyone. That's what I think. I don't think it's that hard. So to see it, it's not hard to see it if it's there. If it's not there, then it seems as if everybody is pulling in different directions because they see something else as being more ideal for them. So we just have to keep moving forward. We have to just embrace the things that help us move forward and identify them and embrace them and support them. We have to make that sort of the bottom line is that, the country has to progress, it has to move forward, it can't be stuck. We're tired of not listening and having, like agitation and protest. The only reason people agitate, you have the urbanation, you have all this. It's like, of course it matters where everybody's from and everything and what tribe they're part of. But the only reason they get upset is because they don't feel heard and they feel as if like the government that's in Abuja doesn't represent them. And if they felt heard, one thing I notice is that whenever there's a lot of conversation about that is useful, whenever there's a lot of good conversation going on, a lot of that stuff goes down, a lot of the agitation and whatever goes down. And then when you get people like acting like they don't care again, then it builds up again. So it makes it obvious that a lot of that is just a reaction to if the people in the Niger Delta felt like they were being dealt with properly, they wouldn't care about, they wouldn't say, oh, okay, well, we need restructuring. After all, the mechanisms that it's in place, and it doesn't work. Like right now, the way it is, it doesn't work. Right now, taking things through Abuja, taking everything through Abuja doesn't work. It could have worked. That's what's sad about it. It could have worked, but it doesn't. It could have worked. They could have been responsive. They could have not make it so that just because everything is in Abuja now, things have to only favor, the country's going to feel like it's run by, the North and only for the North. They could have made it so it doesn't feel that way so much, but they didn't do that. They went and made it. So now it's too late. So now I don't think anybody's going to be happy unless there is restructuring. I don't think anybody's going to be happy because if people say now, like, oh, we'll do the right thing now, we'll do the right thing, it's just going to be like, well, why didn't you do it before? And it's like, even if it's believable. So I tend to think if somebody's like, oh, if they're saying we'll do the right thing now, there's a chance that they might. There's a 25% chance that they might. But the point is, because they didn't before, it's a waste of everybody's time and it's a waste of everybody's energy for them to now, and just like there's not much confidence or faith in them to say, oh, now we will. So I think that the only thing that's going to make sense now at this junction is to really focus on the restructuring and find a way. Also, and find a way to divide, to just not, so just to really sit down on the table and really work out a way that doesn't create the challenges that it does. Because otherwise everyone is just going to feel as if you don't, any solution other than that is going to be, oh, you don't care, or they're not being listened to. So So we have to focus on how to get that problem solved, how to, um, you know, that doesn't result in like a crazy breakup of the country, because it doesn't have to be that way. Like think that all that agitation and all that stuff doesn't have to be that way. It'd be a lot easier if there was a way to make sure that like everything, every area, every sort of was being dealt with fairly, so that they didn't end up feeling as if they needed to do the agitations, or that in order to be heard, in order to be taken seriously, they didn't need to, you know, resort to to crazy and telling people that they, so yeah, I mean the issue of restructuring is something that really has to be faced head on, and really, sat around the table and planned in a way to just like efficiently, make everybody, better off. Because that's the thing. Like if you are a billion or a million or whatever, and everybody around you is poor, it makes you poor too. That's what I want to say to, to anybody that's greedy in that environment. If everybody around in that environment is is poor, it makes your whatever it is you have less valuable, because which is why a lot of them end up spending, which is why you'll end up spending your money abroad, because there's nothing to spend that much in that environment. So it disincentivizes you from sending your school. Why are you going to send your kid to the school that's like, raggedy? Why are you going to, I mean, just like, oh, why are you going to go purchase? It just disincentivizes the proper focus. So you have to, there has to be a shift in thinking that like developing the environment around you is your wealth, and it's not like just something that you hoard in your compound, where you provide your own electricity and you provide your own water and you provide, I mean, it's just ridiculous the lengths that you have to, that is gone through, that has to be gone through in order to really like live the way you want to, in the way, the modern person wants to in Nigeria. It's like you have to provide all the stuff for yourself, but you know it's easier if everybody has it. If it's easier if those things are more generally available, because that'll make what your funds more useful too, and you can spend those funds on something else instead of trying to provide your water, your electricity, and everything. Create your own compound of wealth while you're surrounded. I don't know how people do it. No, I don't know how they, I guess they're used to it. Like seeing the bulk of their population live on like $3 a day, and they're just going about their business and going to like, they'll make their compound even bigger. It takes a special kind of character, or I guess just being used to it. I'm not. I don't know. I think it's really, really crazy. Oh, they're ever like, 90% of my constituents live on $3 a day. Oh well, I'm gonna go make my compound bigger. That takes a special kind of character. Or maybe hopelessness, maybe I don't know. I'm going to go talk about my five. Okay, that's enough.